The Chris Watts family murders. On August 13, 2018, 1:48 in the morning, a white Lexus pulls into a driveway on Saratoga Trail in Frederick, Colorado. Shanann Watts steps out. She's 34 years old, 15 weeks pregnant, exhausted from a business trip to Arizona. She walks to her front door, opens it, steps inside. By noon that same day, police receive a missing persons call. Shanann and her two daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, have vanished. Within 48 hours, investigators recover 3 bodies from an oil field. Within those same 48 hours, the man who reported the missing sits in an interrogation room confessing to murder. This is the story of how Christopher Watts destroyed his family. More importantly, this is the story of how investigators destroyed his lies in real time. If you want to understand how this investigation moved from missing persons to triple homicide in 2 days, if you want to see every contradiction that trapped a killer, subscribe now. What you're about to hear is the complete timeline. This is 48 hours from disappearance to confession. Nicole Atkinson wakes up in Firestone, Colorado on Monday morning, August 13th. She checks her phone, expecting messages from Shanann. They work together selling health supplements for a company called Lavelle. More than business partners, close friends for 4 years. 9 o'clock arrives. No messages, no calls. Nothing since dropping Shanann off at home 7 hours earlier. After every business trip, Shanann sends texts by 8 in the morning. Plans for the day, updates about the girls, energy and momentum. Nicole describes her friend as someone who hits the ground running. This morning brings silence. Nicole texts, "Hey, just checking in." No response. She calls. The phone rings without answer. She tries again. Same result. Then she remembers, Shanann has a doctor's appointment this morning at 10. Prenatal checkup. She's 15 weeks pregnant with a boy named Nico. Shanann has lupus, needs daily medication, never misses these appointments. At 10:15, Nicole calls the doctor's office. Shanann didn't show up, didn't call, didn't cancel. Nicole's instincts shift from concern to alarm. By noon, Nicole stands outside 2825 Saratoga Trail. The house looks quiet, normal. The garage door is closed, but through the window she can see Shanann's white Lexus parked inside. She rings the doorbell, knocks, peers through windows. The family dog moves around inside. No people, no movement upstairs. At 12:10 in the afternoon, Nicole makes 2 calls. First, she calls Chris Watts at work. He's at an oil field about 45 minutes away, Anadarko Petroleum, where he's worked for 5 years as a field coordinator. Nicole explains everything: the missed appointment, the unanswered calls, the car sitting in the garage. Chris's response strikes her as odd. He suggests maybe Shanann went to a friend's house. Nicole asks which friend. Chris doesn't know. He says Shanann mentioned going to a friend's house but didn't say who. Nicole points out the obvious problem. Shanann's car is in the garage. How did she get anywhere? Chris has no answer. Nicole makes her second call. She dials 911 and requests a welfare check. Something is wrong. Officer Scott Coonrod from the Frederick Police Department arrives at 1:40 in the afternoon. Nicole meets him outside and explains the situation: the missed appointment, the unreachable phone, the medication Shanann needs daily still inside the house. Nicole describes Shanann's behavior patterns: a woman who doesn't disappear without telling someone, a mother whose life centers completely on her daughters, a businesswoman who stays constantly available. At 1:48, exactly 12 hours after Shanann arrived home, Chris Watts pulls up in his white work truck. This moment gets captured on Officer Coonrod's body camera, the first footage of Christopher Watts on the day his family disappeared. Chris steps out wearing his bright orange Anadarko shirt. He appears calm, not frantic, not desperate, just calm. Officer Coonrod introduces himself. Chris says he doesn't know where his family is. He repeats that Shanann mentioned going to a friend's house with the girls, but didn't specify who. They enter the house. Nicole follows, watching Chris closely. In her statement to investigators, she describes knowing in this moment that something about Chris feels wrong. But she pushes the thought away. Nobody wants to believe that about someone they know. Inside, everything appears normal, clean, organized, no signs of struggle. Shanann's phone sits on the kitchen counter. Her purse rests nearby. Her lupus medication, which she needs every day, remains in the house. The car seats for Bella and Celeste are still installed in the Lexus. Officer Coonrod asks Chris to walk through the house checking rooms. He calls their names. His voice sounds flat, mechanical, no emotion behind it. They check the bedrooms. In the girls' rooms, the beds are unmade. Nicole notices immediately. She tells the officer that Shanann makes those beds every morning without fail. If the girls slept there, Shanann would have made the beds before leaving for work. In the master bedroom, the bed has been completely stripped, bare mattress, sheets piled in the corner. Officer Coonrod asks why the sheets are off the bed. Chris says he does laundry on Mondays. Simple, matter of fact. But Nicole knows Chris handles the laundry in their house, always has. So why strip the bed before leaving for work if Shanann was still sleeping in it? On the porch, Officer Coonrod asks standard missing persons questions. When did Chris last see his wife? Around 5:15 that morning before leaving for work. Was she awake? Yes, they talked. What about? An emotional conversation about their marriage. Were there problems in the marriage? Chris hesitates, then says things were getting better. Not present tense, were getting better, past tense. Did Shanann seem upset or depressed? No, nothing like that. Any idea where she might have gone? She mentioned a friend's house but didn't say who. Officer Coonrod asks to search Chris's truck. Chris agrees immediately, no hesitation. The truck appears clean, unusually clean. What Officer Coonrod notices is Chris's body language, the slight rocking motion, hands in pockets, the complete absence of concern for his missing pregnant wife and 2 young daughters. At one point, Chris asks what happens now. Not, when will you find them? Not, how can I help? Just, what happens now? Nathan Trinastich, a neighbor from across the street, approaches Officer Coonrod. He mentions having a security camera that faces the Watts driveway. Maybe it caught something. Officer Coonrod, Nate, and Chris walk across the street. They pull up the footage on Nate's laptop. The timestamp reads August 13th, 5:27 in the morning. The video shows Chris's work truck backing into the garage. The garage door closes behind it. For 19 minutes, nothing happens. At 5:46, the garage door opens. Chris's truck pulls out. The vehicle appears to sit lower in the rear, weighted down, as if something heavy has been loaded into the bed. According to Chris, he left for work alone that morning, just him and his work equipment. They keep watching the footage. From 5:46 that morning until Officer Coonrod's arrival in the afternoon, no other vehicle arrives or leaves the Watts residence. No friend picking anyone up, no rideshare, no taxi, nothing. If Shanann and the girls left that house, they did so invisibly. Chris watches the footage. His expression doesn't change. He offers no explanation for the weighted truck, just repeats that he had his work stuff. Officer Coonrod thanks Nate, walks back across the street, and radios for backup. This is now a crime scene investigation. The prime suspect stands 3 feet away. Nicole stands in the driveway watching all of this unfold. In her police interview, she explains what convinced her something was terribly wrong. The unmade beds, the stripped master bedroom, Chris's vague story about a friend's house with no name attached, his flat affect, his mechanical responses, his lack of urgency, and something else. When Nicole called Chris that morning to say Shanann was missing, Chris immediately mentioned marital separation. He brought it up unprompted. Why discuss separation when your pregnant wife and 2 young daughters have vanished? Nicole doesn't buy his story, not for 1 second. Neither do the police. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, the Frederick Police Department activates an endangered missing alert. The FBI gets notified. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation joins the case. A full missing persons investigation launches. And Chris Watts receives a request to come to the police station for a formal interview. He agrees immediately, no hesitation, no lawyer, because Chris believes he's smarter than everyone around him. He believes his plan is perfect. He believes he's covered every detail. He hasn't.
That evening, Chris sits in an interrogation room at the Frederick Police Department. Across from him, Special Agent Grahm Coder from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Detective Dave Baumhover from Frederick Police. The interview begins around 6 o'clock. Every word gets recorded, every expression captured on camera. Chris tells his story. He woke up around 5 that morning. He and Shanann had an emotional conversation about their marriage. He mentioned wanting a separation. She was upset. He left for work around 5:15. When he left, Shanann and the girls were home and alive. Agent Coder lets him talk, doesn't interrupt, lets Chris build his entire narrative without interference. Then the questions begin. What was Shanann wearing when Chris last saw her? Chris pauses. He doesn't remember exactly. Agent Coder presses. You don't remember what your pregnant wife was wearing a few hours ago? Chris says it was early. He wasn't paying attention. Was she in bed? Yes. Sitting up or lying down? Chris thinks she was sitting up. He's not sure. Tell us about the conversation. What exactly did you say? Chris explains he told her he wanted a separation. How did she react? She was crying, upset. Did she threaten to leave with the girls? She said she was going to a friend's house. Which friend? She didn't say. Did you ask? No. You didn't ask where your pregnant wife was taking your daughters? Chris says he thought she just needed space. Agent Coder leans back. Help me understand something, Chris. Your wife is 15 weeks pregnant. She's upset and crying. She says she's taking your daughters to a friend's house, and you don't ask where? You don't ask who? You don't ask when she'll be back? Chris says he thought she'd call him, but she didn't call and you didn't call her, not once all day. Why? Chris claims he was busy at work. Too busy to check on your pregnant wife and 2 daughters? Chris has no good answer. Agent Coder shifts topics. He discusses the security camera footage, the truck backing into the garage at 5:27, the closed garage door, the truck leaving at 5:46, appearing weighted down. That's 19 minutes with the garage door closed, Chris. What were you doing for 19 minutes? Loading work equipment, Chris says. 19 minutes to load work equipment? Chris says he had to get it organized. Agent Coder slides a photograph across the table, a still frame from the security footage. The truck sitting visibly lower when leaving than when arriving. That's significant weight, Chris. What else was in your truck? Nothing, just work stuff. Where's your family, Chris? I don't know. Agent Coder speaks plainly. We've checked rideshare services. No Uber, no Lyft. We've talked to Shanann's friends. None of them have seen her. No one picked her up. The security footage shows no other vehicles at your house. So if Shanann and the girls left, how did they leave? Chris's leg bounces under the table, his hands clasped together, knuckles white. He says he doesn't know. Agent Coder changes approach. He leans forward and softens his voice. This is a technique called minimization, giving the suspect an exit strategy. Chris, I've done this for a long time. I've seen situations where something happens, an accident, a moment of anger. People panic, they make bad decisions trying to cover things up. Then it snowballs. If something happened, if there was an accident, now is the time to tell us. We can understand accidents, we can understand panic, but if you keep lying, this ends badly. Chris doesn't take the offer. He insists he didn't do anything. He doesn't know where they are. The interview continues for hours. Agent Coder and Detective Baumhover ask the same questions in different ways, probing for inconsistencies, applying pressure. Chris sticks to his story. He's committed now, dug in.
Around 10 o'clock that night, they let him go. He's not under arrest, not yet. They don't have enough evidence, but they have enough to keep investigating. The next morning, Tuesday, August 14th, Chris does something that baffles investigators. He agrees to a television interview. At 9 o'clock, a reporter from Denver 7 News arrives at the Watts residence. Cameras set up on the front porch. Neighbors watch, and Chris stands there making a public plea for his family's return. He asks Shanann, Bella, and Celeste to come back if they're out there. He says he needs to see everybody again. The interview reveals everything wrong with Chris's performance. His body language contradicts his words. He smiles, not constantly, but enough that people notice. When discussing his daughters, a smile creeps across his face. At one point, he says those girls were his life, past tense. Then he catches himself and switches to present tense. Those girls are my life. His voice cracks occasionally, but produces no tears. His eyes stay dry. He's performing grief without feeling it. The reporter asks what he wants to say to his wife. Chris responds simply that he wants her to come back. That's it. No declarations of love, no promises to work things out, no mention of the girls needing their mother. Just a generic, hollow desire for her to return. Agent Tammy Lee from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation watches this interview live. In her case notes, she writes that the moment she saw it, she knew they needed Chris back in that interrogation room immediately. Because guilty people don't typically go on television begging for their family's return when they know exactly where the bodies are. And when they do, they can't pull it off convincingly. Chris Watts cannot pull it off. While Chris performs for cameras, investigators pull his phone records, text messages, call logs, location data. They find something Chris claimed didn't exist, an affair. The woman's name is Nicole Kessinger, 30 years old, works for Anadarko Petroleum, same as Chris. They started working closely together in June 2018. By early July, the relationship turned romantic. Investigators contact Nicole on August 14th. She agrees to an interview immediately. What Nicole tells investigators dismantles Chris's story further. Chris told her his marriage was over, that he and Shanann were separated, that the divorce was underway, just paperwork remaining. Chris never mentioned Shanann was pregnant. He told Nicole he'd had a vasectomy years before and couldn't have more children. They talked about the future, about their life after his divorce finalized, about Chris getting an apartment. On August 4th, 9 days before the murders, Chris hired a babysitter, told Shanann he was going to a baseball game with coworkers, and instead met Nicole at a bar in Thornton. And here's the chilling detail. On the morning of August 13th, while Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were already dead, while their bodies were being transported to an oil field, Chris texted Nicole. Normal texts, casual texts. Good morning, beautiful. How did you sleep? As if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just annihilated his entire family hours earlier. Nicole tells investigators she had no idea about any of this. She believed Chris about the separation. She thought the divorce was nearly final. When Shanann's disappearance hit the news on August 14th, Nicole started to suspect. She Googled Chris's name, found the articles, saw his televised plea, and felt sick. She called the police herself, came in voluntarily, cooperated fully. Investigators find no evidence she knew Chris's plans. She was motivation, not accomplice. But her existence clarifies why Chris killed his family. He wanted a fresh start, a new life, a life with Nicole, and Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, and unborn Nico stood in the way of that life. On the morning of August 15th, 2 days after the murders, investigators ask Chris to take a polygraph test. He agrees. No hesitation, no lawyer. Standard questions, control questions, relevant questions. Did you cause your family to disappear? No. Do you know where your family is? No. Did you harm your wife? No. Did you harm your daughters? No. The examiner watches the physiological responses: heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, galvanic skin response. When the test finishes, the examiner looks at Chris and speaks plainly. You're not being truthful. You failed. Chris's face drains of color. The examiner continues, "You didn't just fail, you failed spectacularly. Every single relevant question shows deception. For the first time since this began, Chris has nowhere to hide."
The examiner brings in Agent Coder and Detective Baumhover. They sit with Chris in a small room. No table between them this time. Just 3 chairs close together. Intimate, confrontational. "Chris, we know you're lying. The polygraph confirms it. The evidence confirms it. Your story doesn't add up. We've checked everything. There's no friend, no playdate, no one picked them up. The only person who left that house on August 13th was you." Chris starts shaking, hands trembling, leg bouncing continuously. "We know something happened. We know. We're going to find them. The question is whether you help us now or let this drag out." Silence fills the room. "Chris, your daughters, Bella and Celeste, they're out there somewhere. If there's any chance they're alive, we need to know where they are right now. Every minute we waste matters." Chris begins to cry. Real tears this time, not the performance from the television interview. Actual emotion breaking through. He whispers, "I didn't mean for this to happen." Agent Coder leans forward. "What happened, Chris?" Chris takes a breath and begins his first confession. But even now, even caught, even with the polygraph failure and mounting evidence, Chris cannot tell the complete truth. Chris sits in that interrogation room and constructs a new story. According to this version, he woke up early on August 13th. He and Shanann had their emotional conversation. He mentioned separation. She was devastated. He went downstairs. When he looked at the baby monitor, he saw Shanann on top of Celeste, strangling her. He ran upstairs. Bella was already dead. Shanann was actively killing Celeste. He snapped, strangled Shanann in rage. Then, panicking, he loaded all 3 bodies into his truck, drove to the Survey 319 oil site where he worked, buried Shanann in a shallow grave, put Bella and Celeste in oil storage tanks. This story paints Chris as a man who killed in passionate rage after discovering his wife had murdered their children. It's designed to claim heat of passion, to explain away premeditation. Investigators don't believe a word. The confession contains obvious problems. First, the baby monitor. Chris claims he saw Shanann killing Celeste on the monitor. Investigators examine it. The monitor wasn't on, hadn't been used in weeks. Second, the body positioning. Bella and Celeste were found in separate oil tanks with 8-inch openings. Fitting them through those openings required forcing their small bodies through impossibly tight spaces. The violence required for that wasn't rage in the moment. It was calculated, methodical, planned. The autopsy results. The medical examiner determines that Shanann was manually strangled with bare hands. The pressure applied to her neck was sustained, at least 2 minutes of continuous force. You cannot strangle someone for 2 minutes and claim momentary loss of control. The autopsy reveals she may have been buried with faint signs of life still present, buried alive. Bella, smothered with a soft object, likely a pillow or blanket. But Bella has a defensive wound. She bit her tongue. She fought. She resisted. And in her stomach, in her lungs, investigators find traces of crude oil, which means Bella was still alive when Chris forced her into that tank, breathing until the oil filled her lungs. Celeste, smothering. Same method as Bella, but no defensive wounds on Celeste. No signs of struggle. Investigators believe she was smothered in her sleep. She never woke up, never knew. The autopsies completely disprove Chris's claim that Shanann strangled the girls. The medical examiner finds 0 evidence of strangulation on the children. They were smothered. The manner of death is consistent with one perpetrator, Chris Watts. Chris's story crumbles again. While forensic teams process the bodies, investigators continue building their case. Phone records, browser history, location data. They find the evidence of premeditation.
On August 13th at 5:55 in the morning, before leaving for work, Chris called Primrose, the school Bella and Celeste attended. He told the administrator the girls wouldn't be coming back. He was withdrawing them. This call happened before Chris claims he discovered Shanann killing the girls. Why would Chris call the school to withdraw his daughters if Shanann was still alive? That same morning, Chris called a realtor named Ann Meadows asking about selling the house and downsizing. She gave him listings. He said he'd drive past one on his way home from work. Why plan to sell the house and move if his family was still alive? His phone's location data shows multiple visits to the Survey 319 oil site in the days before August 13th. It wasn't one of his regularly assigned work sites. He had no legitimate reason to be there, but he drove past it, checked it out, scouted it. His internet search history from the weeks before the murders includes searches for calculating oil tank volume, information about dissolving bodies in crude oil, divorce attorneys in Colorado, and how long divorces take. Text messages with Nicole in the days before the murders show a man mentally checked out of his marriage, already planning a future without Shanann. On August 10th, 3 days before the murders, Nicole texted, "What's the first thing you want to do when you're officially separated?" Chris replied, "Move in with you, start over, fresh start." On August 11th, Nicole searched online for wedding preparation information. On August 12th, Chris took his daughters to a birthday party. Neighbors described him as distracted, distant. One neighbor asked if he was okay. He said he was thinking about the future. That night, around 10 o'clock, Shanann landed in Denver. Nicole picked her up and drove her home. At 1:48 in the morning, Shanann walked through her front door for the last time. Chris was awake, waiting. Within the next 4 hours, Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, all dead. After Chris pleaded guilty in November 2018, investigators still had questions. His confession contained lies. The timeline didn't fully add up. Critical details were missing. In February 2019, Agent Coder traveled to Dodge Correctional Institution in Waupun, Wisconsin, where Chris was serving his sentence. For 5 hours in a small room, Chris finally told the complete truth. He admitted he lied about Shanann killing the girls. She never touched them. He killed all 3.
On the night of August 12th, going into early morning August 13th, Chris stayed up late, texting Nicole, making plans, thinking about his new life. When Shanann arrived home at 1:48 in the morning, she was exhausted from traveling and 15 weeks pregnant. She went straight to bed. Chris watched her sleep and waited. Around 5 o'clock, he made his decision. He woke Shanann up and told her he wanted a separation, told her the marriage was over. Shanann was devastated. She asked why. She begged him to reconsider. She reminded him they were about to have a son. They had 2 beautiful daughters. They could work this out. Chris told her about the affair, about Nicole, about wanting a fresh start. According to Chris, Shanann said if he left, he'd never see the girls again. Chris climbed on top of her, wrapped his hands around her neck, squeezed. She fought, clawed at his arms, gasped for air, asked what he was doing. He kept squeezing for 2 minutes until she stopped moving, until her eyes went still. Then Bella walked into the room, 4-year-old Bella, woken by the sounds, by her mother's struggle. She asked what was wrong with Mommy. Chris told her Shanann was sick, said she'd be okay, told Bella to go back to bed. But Bella knew. Children always know. Chris wrapped Shanann's body in a sheet, carried her downstairs and loaded her into his truck. Then he went back upstairs, woke up Bella and Celeste, and told them they were going on an adventure, told them to get in the truck. Those little girls climbed into the back seat of their father's truck, not knowing their mother's body lay wrapped in a sheet just feet behind them. Chris drove 45 minutes to the Survey 319 site. Bella and Celeste were awake, asking questions. Where's Mommy? Where are we going? Chris parked, carried Shanann's body to the grave he'd scouted, and buried her. Then he walked back to the truck and smothered Celeste first, right there in the back seat, while Bella watched. Bella begged, screamed, "Daddy, no! Please, Daddy!" Chris took Celeste's body to one of the oil tanks and forced her small body through the 8-inch hatch, let her fall into the crude oil below. Then he came back for Bella. Bella knew what was coming. She fought, bit her tongue trying to resist, scratched at him. But she was 4 years old, and he was a grown man. He smothered her, carried her body to the second tank, and forced her through the hatch. Then he drove to work, sent text messages to coworkers, texted Nickel, "Good morning, beautiful," as if it was just another Monday. On November 19, 2018, Chris Watts stood in a Weld County courtroom for his sentencing hearing. He had pleaded guilty to 9 counts, 3 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of murdering a child under 12, 1 count of unlawful termination of pregnancy, and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. In exchange for his guilty plea, prosecutors agreed not to seek the death penalty. Shanann's family supported this decision. They couldn't bear a trial, couldn't sit through testimony and evidence presentations, couldn't relive the horror in a courtroom for weeks or months. They just wanted it over. At the hearing, Frank Razuchik addressed Chris directly. "I trusted you to take care of them, and you killed them. You are nothing to me. You are the most evil, heartless person I have ever met." Shanann's mother, Sandra Razuchik, spoke next. "I just don't understand how you could do this to your wife who was pregnant with your child and your 2 beautiful little girls. You had the opportunity to do the right thing, but you didn't. You didn't give them a chance." Shanann's brother, Frankie Razuchik, looked at Chris with pure rage. "Prison is too good for you. I wish I could take away your freedom and your life like you took theirs." Chris stood and listened. He said nothing meaningful, offered no real apology, no explanation, just hollow words, "I'm sorry." Judge Marcelo Kopkow sentenced Chris to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, 3 consecutive life sentences for Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, 2 concurrent life sentences for the child murder charges, plus 84 years for tampering with the deceased bodies, plus 48 years for terminating Shanann's pregnancy. Chris Watts will die in prison. He will never be free again. As they led him out of the courtroom, Frank Razuchik muttered, "Rot in hell." The Watts case fits a pattern, a disturbing, well-documented pattern known as family annihilation, the murder of an entire family by one member. The FBI estimates approximately 20 family annihilation cases occur per year in the United States. Most follow a specific profile. The perpetrator is male, usually the father. He's facing financial stress. The Watts family declared bankruptcy in 2015 and owed nearly $500,000. Despite Shanann's social media posts showing a perfect life, they were drowning financially. He's experiencing marital problems, often having an affair. Chris was involved with Nickel Kessinger and mentally exited his marriage weeks before the murders. He sees his family not as people, but as obstacles, extensions of himself, assets to be managed or eliminated when they become inconvenient. And here's the most disturbing characteristic. Family annihilators often appear normal, even gentle. Chris's co-workers described him as quiet, mild-mannered, a nice guy. No history of violence, no red flags visible to casual observers, until suddenly there are. Looking back, warning signs existed. Subtle, easy to miss, but present. In the weeks before the murders, Shanann confided in friends that something was wrong with Chris. He'd become distant and cold. He wasn't wearing his wedding ring. He'd changed the background photo on his phone to a picture of sand dunes, the same sand dunes where he'd taken Nickel on a romantic weekend while Shanann was in North Carolina with the girls.
Shanann texted Nickel, "He's not fighting for us. He's obviously not in it." She ordered a relationship book from Amazon called Hold Me Tight. When it arrived, Chris threw it in the garbage without opening it. She suggested couples therapy. Chris refused. She tried planning romantic gestures, special dinners, reconnecting physically. Chris pulled away from every attempt. In early August, Shanann texted a friend, "I feel like I don't know him anymore." But even with all these signs, Shanann never imagined Chris was capable of violence, never thought her life or her daughter's lives were in danger. Why would she? Chris had never been violent before, never raised his hand, never threatened anyone. And that's what makes family annihilation so terrifying. There's often no escalation, no history of abuse, just a man who decides his family is an inconvenience and eliminates that inconvenience. Nickel Kessinger was not complicit in the murders. Investigators cleared her completely. She had no knowledge of Chris's plans, no involvement in the crimes. But her existence mattered because she represented what Chris wanted: a new life, freedom, romance, adventure. Nickel told investigators Chris talked about the future constantly, about trips they'd take, places they'd go, experiences they'd have together. On August 4th, 9 days before the murders, Nickel spent 2 hours looking at wedding dresses online. She had no idea Chris's divorce wasn't actually happening, that Shanann was pregnant, that Chris was lying about everything. When Shanann and the girls disappeared, Nickel felt sick. She told police, "I kept asking him, 'What did you do, Chris? What did you do? Where's your family?' And he kept saying, 'I didn't hurt my family, Nikki.'" After Chris's arrest, Nickel disappeared from public view. She changed her identity, moved away, started over somewhere new. She carries the weight of knowing she was the motivation, not the cause, but the motivation for Chris killing his family. She has to live with that knowledge for the rest of her life. The Watts case has remained in the public's consciousness for one reason: it could have been anyone. Chris Watts wasn't a monster in the traditional sense. Monsters are easy to identify, easy to avoid, easy to fear from a distance. Chris was normal, suburban, quiet, a guy who went to work, came home, played with his kids, mowed his lawn, waved to neighbors. He looked like someone's neighbor, someone's coworker, someone's friend. And that's the lesson. Evil doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always wear a mask or carry a weapon or show obvious signs of danger. Sometimes evil is the person sleeping next to you, the person you trust completely, the person who says, "I love you," while planning your murder. Shanann Watts trusted Chris with her life and with her daughter's lives, and he killed them all. Not in a fit of rage, not in self-defense, not because he was insane or impaired.
He killed them because they were inconvenient, because he wanted something else, because he saw a path to a new life and they were blocking that path. That's the horror of the Watts case, that calculation, that coldness, that complete absence of empathy. Chris Watts is where he belongs, in a maximum security prison, serving 5 consecutive life sentences, never to be free again. But the questions remain. How do we identify people capable of this? How do we protect families from someone who lives inside the home? How do we see the warning signs before it's too late? The answer is uncomfortable. Sometimes we can't. And that's what keeps this case alive in our collective nightmares. Shanann Watts was 34 years old, a devoted mother, a successful businesswoman, a loyal friend, 15 weeks pregnant with a son named Nico Lee. She loved fiercely. She fought for her marriage. She believed in family. She deserved to watch her daughters grow up. She deserved to meet her son. She deserved to grow old. Bella Watts was 4 years old. She loved her little sister. She was curious and intelligent and full of life. She saw her mother's murder. She begged her father to stop.
She fought until the very end. She deserved to start kindergarten, to make friends, to discover who she'd become. Celeste Watts was 3 years old. She was sweet and gentle and trusting. She never woke up, never knew what was happening, never understood why her father hurt her. She deserved to laugh and play and dream. Nico Lee Watts never took a breath, never opened his eyes, never had a chance. They were not statistics. They were not just victims. They were people, real people with lives and futures and potential. Christopher Watts took all of that. In one night, in a few hours, he erased his entire family. And for what? For a girlfriend who didn't even know the truth? For a fresh start built on lies? For freedom from responsibilities he chose to take on? There is no logic to it, no justification, no explanation that satisfies. There is only the truth. Chris Watts is a family annihilator, a calculated murderer, a coward. He sits in a Wisconsin prison now. He will die there. And that is the only justice possible in a case where justice can never truly be served. If you found this investigation valuable, if it made you think differently about the people around you, if it made you pay attention to warning signs, then subscribe. Turn on notifications, because the stories we tell here matter. The details we investigate matter. The lessons we learn from these tragedies matter. Remember Shanann. Remember Bella. Remember Celeste. Remember Nico. And remember that evil is not always obvious. Sometimes it's sitting across the dinner table, sleeping in your bed, holding your hand. Stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and never assume that someone incapable of violence today won't be capable of it tomorrow. Thank you for watching.